Andy, always a pleasure. Stop in, my man. Thank you so much for the time again. Well, they got the first win. Now, some would say had they lost this one, it would have been more disastrous than had they lost the first three. I think that's a pretty fair statement to make. That being said, they got the job done, walked out of the Dome with that 25-21 win.
Yeah, I've heard this from coaches all the time. Frank said it in our postgame show on Saturday night. Winning is hard. It's never easy. And no matter who you are or where you're doing it, the next one's always the next hardest one to get. And they'll face that with UTEP coming up. But I thought it was a big-time win. They got off to the start they wanted, that fast start that we've talked about. And then they kind of came back to Texas State a little bit. And then, fortunately, special teams and defense finished them off in the end.
I asked Frank this question, even though it's not conference, even though it's not a Power 5, is it almost a very important game in the sense that they're right up the road. It's a rivalry game. And he said, yeah, for everybody else, it kind of is. For us, it's just another game, in reality. From the outside perspective, though, pretty big win.
Well, I think it's a much bigger game for Texas State. They've been the football dynasty, if you will, in this area. They're not Texas. They're not Texas A&M, but they've been around for 100 years. UTSA's been around for 8. And I think UTSA getting football hurt Texas State a lot in terms of recruiting, kind of landlocked them a little bit more from some of the other schools that they go to. This is their rival game. UTSA's rival game is definitely North Texas and UTEP, because they're recruiting players for those two schools, and they're in-state, and they're conference. So those are bigger games for UTSA than the Texas State game is, but you never want to lose to who you perceive to be your little brother. So as this series continues into the future, it will always be a big game, I think, more so for Texas State, and one of those must-wins for UTSA.
You mentioned how North Texas and UTEP are the bigger rivalry games. So look who's next. Thoughts on that game going in and the importance of UTSA kicking off conference play with a victory?
Well, first of all, the home team's never won. UTSA hopes to change that. UTEP hasn't won a game in a year and a half. They're 0-4 this year. They lost all their games the previous year or last year, so they're really trying to find a way to win. So there is a lot on the line, and it's a conference game, and if you're going to win conference, you've got to beat the teams that are technically below you and or near the bottom of the conference. No team wins conference by losing to those who are projected to finish near the end or end up finishing there. And I don't think UTEP's going to be better than 5th or 6th in the West. So it's a game that I think UTSA can win and should win.
All right, as we go into that game, 4 games now into a 12-game season, so we're exactly a quarter of the way in. Your assessment of the Roadrunner football team, a quarter of the way in.
I think the defense is as good as advertised. They are a good defensive team, and they're getting more and more confidence with their secondary, which, if you want to call that the weaker link because they haven't played together, the front six is great, but I saw a lot of confidence and a lot of maturity that we didn't see in the first 3 games from the secondary. Offensively, still very much a work in progress, especially in the passing game, and it's the passing game that's going to help make that running game even better than it is.
Of course, Andy Everett will have the call. Ticket 760, the voice of the Roadrunners, UTSA and UTEP on Saturday night. Can't let you go, though, without asking you about Tiger Woods.
Fantastic. The ratings were up 206%. I didn't watch an ounce of NFL football until that was way over and the post-game was over and the post-game was over. You can't get enough of him. And he makes the sport great. And I know every one of those players on the PGA Tour are playing for the kind of money and the notoriety they are because of him. And not nearly as many eyeballs would have watched that tournament if he, A, wasn't in contention or B, wasn't in it at all. So he's back, looking forward to the Ryder Cup and then the major season next year.
Look, I get that now that he's won, again, it's easy to say this, but I always thought he is going to win at least one more tour event before he's done. Like, he's Tiger. He's going to. And I get, again, it's easy to say now that he's done it. I think the true question is, though, can he win a major before? And we saw a couple of weeks ago he was in contention on the last day.
I think when you haven't won in a long time, it's like going back to your first win in 1996. You got to learn how to win again. And once you've learned how to win, now you can kind of go forward and go, oh, yeah, now I know how to do it.
Andy, appreciate the time, man. Thanks. All right.
You're watching Sports2Nite, San Antonio's only nightly 30-minute sportscast with exclusive sports coverage you won't find anywhere else.